Hello chess friends, and welcome to the Azad of Chess channel, and welcome to another beautiful tactical game from the computer chess rating list website, the beautiful CCRL. We have here Viriditas against Stockfish 16 in an amazing center game. The center game is, I think, a rare opening, but again, we have to know what to do against this type of position, what to do, what's the best continuation. I think here Stockfish will show us with the black pieces, very powerful line, how to dismantle, how to destroy this center game with the black pieces. So let's dive into the game with the white pieces here. Viriditas open with the move e4. We have e5 by Stockfish 16. We have d4, the center game. After e takes d4 and queen to d4. The idea from white's perspective about this opening is to, of course, develop the queen and castle queen side very fast. The queen is now centralized. But of course, the downside is that black gains an extra tempo against the queen. The queen has to move, so it's sort of a loss of a tempo in an early stage of the game, but with powerful dynamic opportunities, because probably in these types of positions, white will castle queen side and black will castle king side. So it becomes then this beautiful opposite side attack game where we see many dirty tactical ideas. So here after knight to c6, we have queen to c4 by Viriditas, knight to f6 by Stockfish, knight to c3 normal development, and now with bishop to b4, Stockfish is attacking the key defender of the square e4, is trying of course to grab the pawn. That's why bishop to d2 here by Viriditas, and now kingside castling by Stockfish 16. Now we have this idea, queenside castling by Viriditas. You see now both kings are now on opposite sides, and probably we'll see now g4 and b5 from white's and from black's perspective. Very a beautiful position to study. So now rook to e8, Stockfish puts more pressure against this pawn. We have f3 by Viriditas, not only protecting the pawn but also preparing dynamic progress here with g4, h4, g5, h5, and similar stuff. So Stockfish continues with d6, fixes also here the e5 square. We have a3 by Viriditas, and now comes very beautiful and powerful move. Stockfish plays the amazing a5, and I think many of us have reached maybe a similar position but didn't dare to play this beautiful tactical line. This move a5 is really cool because actually you cannot take the bishop on b4. Of course, let's see what happens if you play a takes b4. This wasn't played in the game, but of course we want to see this beautiful tactical line. After a takes b4, now we of course take here a takes b4, and now the knight has to retreat. The problem now after rook to a1 is that there's simply no good defense against bishop to e6 and bishop to a2. That's now the most, I think, powerful idea. Even if you try to do something like b3, then after bishop to e6, you try maybe to escape with the queen, and then queen to a8 is coming, and then queen to a2. So again, with similar tactics, I think white can resign after a couple more moves. You can maybe play bishop to b4. Now the queen is coming, and it's game over. Instead of this move b3 that would actually lock the diagonal, you could maybe try queen to b5, maybe include somehow a new defender into the game. But now again, bishop to e6, queen to b7, and let's see with bishop to a2, there's nothing that can be done against this powerful idea of black. So that's why here Viriditas didn't take, which is of course the correct idea. Viriditas played simply queen to e2, normal centralizing move for the queen. We have now bishop to d7. This is a certain theoretical novelty here introduced to us by Stockfish. Knight to e5 and d5 were the moves that have been played so far in chess history. Stockfish shows an interesting idea with bishop to d7, because in some lines we can also play b5 later, and then of course put more pressure, simply letting this pawns roll here on the queen side. Very interesting choice here by Stockfish 16. We have g4 of course by Viriditas. Very dynamic position we have now already. We're now in move 11, and already the position is almost exploding here. We have knight to e5 here, of course. Even in some lines there are maybe some tactics, knight to g4, bishop to g4, and similar stuff. So be careful also from white's perspective when you have really this attacked pawns by these minor pieces of black. So after knight to e5, we have g5 by Viriditas. Here, let's see again, even if you now play in this position a takes b4, again it's not working, because after a takes b4, knight to b1, rook to a1, bishop to b4, maybe you're hoping that you could lock somehow this a file, because we have seen queen to a8 was always also huge threat. But again, queen to a8, you're trying maybe bishop to a3, but again, bishop to e6, and nothing can be done. You can play bishop to g2, bishop to f5, and now bishop to a2, and the game is over again, I think, here for white. Okay, maybe you can just prolong the game, but the king will be then centralized. You have to escape from this attack, and devastating again position for white. I'm showing you this because maybe you're thinking maybe now we can take the bishop. No, really, white can never really take the bishop so far, at least not in this early stage of the game. So after knight to e5, we have now g5 by Viriditas, we have knight to h5, and now after knight to d5, here that Viriditas played, now again a powerful move here by Stockfish b5, and that's the beauty about this move, bishop to d7. Really a beautiful novelty that we have seen now by Stockfish. Very interesting choice, and I think you could reach this position. So that's why it's very important to notice this tiny little improvements in sidelines here by Stockfish 16. b5 is again creating new dynamic opportunities here on the queen side. So Stockfish is not losing any time here. Stockfish is just putting more pressure here on the queen side. Let's see again if a takes b4 happens. This again was not played, but now it gets a little bit more complicated. But again, I wanted to show you that you cannot really never take the bishop on b4. After a takes b4 and something like, I don't know, bishop to b4, again bishop to e6, and it seems so that white has actually locked the diagonal now because the knight is not endangered anymore. But now after something like, I don't know, knight to e3, if you try to escape, then knight to c4 is going to happen. Again, with ideas to deliver even checkmate. You have to now give up the knight for a knight, and now after bishop to c4, queen to f2, the queen to g5 move is very dangerous. You cover, if you cover, of course, here with any of your pieces, then you get checkmate with rook a1. You can maybe escape, but now with bishop to a2, again we do some perpetuals, and then after bishop to e6, now c5, simply attacking the bishop, and then with queen to e7, queen to a7, I think there's simply no good defense anymore here for white. Again, this a file attack bothers here white in the continuation of the game. You cannot, of course, here also escape to a3, then b4. b4 is coming, so it's not working. So let's go back. After we move bishop to a6, what white can do is maybe to play the move knight to c3. Seems also logical because again you're bringing a new defender into the game. But now again c5, the bishop has to take now. If again bishop to a3 happens, then b4 is coming, and again it's a devastating position. You could maybe try bishop to c5. You cannot take because of the rook's activity, but now again a check. You have to step back, and now finally we can take. If you cover with the knight, we have seen knight to b1 leads into these complicated lines with bishop to a2, so it's not working. Let's go again back. Maybe there is this option, bishop to c3. Maybe we're trying to keep the knight here. Maybe we don't want to retreat our knight. We don't want to liberate this diagonal for the light square bishop. Then again, bishop to d5. It's actually working. After a takes d5, we have rook to a1, a check, and now again this dirty check is coming. That's also the issue here. If you cover yourself, then this one is working. Look at this, knight to f3. The position is collapsing here. Knight to f3, we pick up the queen, and it's game over here for white. So I hope that we realize here that really we cannot take here the bishop on b4. So let's go back. After move b5, this position is really tensed. Nothing can be taken, but this is really cool because Stockfish has now a new attacker, a new progressed pawn here on the queen side. We have f4 by Viriditas. Stockfish continues with bishop to g4, hits the queen, queen to f2, and now bishop to d1, getting rid of the rook. A takes b4 now is possible because now the king can actually escape on light squares. That was now a Viriditas calculation, but Stockfish continues with a takes b4, again with ideas to deliver some checks. We have king takes d1, but the issue is now, look at this, the king is lined up against this rook on e8, but also against this queen on dx. So if something clears on both of these files, again, very dangerous here to handle for white. Let's see how Stockfish continues. We have rook to a1 check, bishop to c1 by Viriditas, c6, kicking away the knight, f takes e5 here by Viriditas, and Stockfish continues, of course, also with c takes d5. We have bishop to b5. Instead of rook to e5, Stockfish plays another beautiful move, rook to e6. Many of us, I think, would here play rook to e5, simply grabbing the pawn, and then you're going forward. Also, you're trying to get this pawn, but actually, for knight to e5, white has this defensive resource. Still, black should be better here. I'm not saying this is so much worse here for Stockfish, but knight to f3, of course, is an extra tempo, and finally this knight is getting out. You see now how actually Stockfish will hold this knight on g1, would not allow here this knight to be developed. So that's why rook to e6, really brilliant idea, because after e takes d5, that Viriditas played, Stockfish continued with d takes e5, and you see now you cannot take because of the queen's activity. And now there is also a threat of queen takes g5, because the bishop cannot take because of the rook's activity. Really dynamic position. We have bishop to c4 here by Viriditas. Stockfish continues with knight to f4, puts more pressure against this pawn on d5. We have queen to f3 protecting everything, and now after knight takes d5, really cool idea, because you cannot take with the queen. Rook to d6 is going to happen. That's the beauty about this move, rook to e6. Now Viriditas took with the bishop. Stockfish continued here with e4, really powerful idea. Queen to b3, white is hoping to get this piece, but of course now rook to a5, the heavy artillery is coming into the game. Look at this, two rooks and the queen are storming against the centralized king. Very a wild position. We have king to e2, rook takes d5, and now bishop to e3 here by Viriditas. Again, I'm pointing out, as I said, that was the beauty, because Stockfish did not play the move rook to e5, because we have seen knight to f3 was then the opportunity. Even if you try now finally here in this position, instead of bishop to e3, even if you try to develop now finally the knight somewhere, this f3 square is of course taken, then we have this idea, e3 is working, and there is now really powerful check with rook to d2. You cannot take, of course, there is something will be cleared here, so really messed up position. You can maybe take the pawn, but again rook to d2 is devastating, again a messed up position here for white. Really wild stuff. So that's why bishop to e3. Here Viriditas is not allowing Stockfish to push the pawn further here to e3. We have rook to d1 by the fish. Stockfish is not allowing again this knight to be developed on g1. Really dynamic play here by Stockfish. Queen to b4, h5, creating some breathing spaces here on the king side. Queen to c4, and now rook from e to d6, putting more pressure here on the t file. We have king to f2. Now the queen is coming. Dangerous checks is of course on e1. That's why queen to e4, rook to e6. Stockfish is attacking the queen, and now plays queen to a6, of course with the same idea. Dangerous check here on f1. We have queen to g2. Stockfish played a powerful rook sacrifices the rook for the exchange, just in order to bring the queen into the attack. We have queen to f3, queen to d5 check, king to g3, and now a new check. Stockfish is simply delivering more checks, and now grabs even another pawn. We have now this idea, you have to cover now with the knight, and now Stockfish plays this beautiful check. You have to cover, and now after queen takes f3, king takes f3, rook takes h1, this is game over. All of this mess Stockfish created, now finally Stockfish grabbed the rook, is up the exchange, and has now completely winning endgame here. Really brutal game here by Stockfish. But the game was prolonged here for a couple more moves. Stockfish took the pawn, of course. Here Viriditas delivered some attacks against the pawns, but Stockfish simply continued here. And in one particular moment, which was really crazy, Stockfish even mocked here, I think, a little bit Viriditas, because Stockfish could have played immediately here rook to e1. So I'm not sure why Stockfish didn't play that, but Stockfish simply grabbed this one and continued here. And in this particular position, Viriditas resigned finally. So, great game, I think. Great Black's defense against this center game. I think this is really instructive. I think this could happen to you, because probably many of us, I don't know, e4, e5, and then you have many things prepared at home. You know how to play against the Scotch, you know the Rui Lopez, you know a great theory of the Italian, and then your opponent plays d4, and you're not maybe familiar with the basic concepts, I think this is really spectacular. Of course, not many games will be exactly like this, but interesting tactics with a5 that you can leave the bishop there. We have seen this method, this theoretical novelty with bishop to d7, b5. Interesting, I think game for sure, worth to study. Spectacular game again, played by Stockfish 16. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot because I don't want to meet this opening and don't know what to do. If you want to see more brutal, spectacular games played by Stockfish, but of course also by some other top engines, check out our commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.